I was planned out for a grand total of one show,
Mhm.
and had I known that would be expected or even asked again, I probably wouldn't have.
And you killed it, to be fair. That show being the 5-year anniversary vibes episode from back in April.
Yeah, literally the only thing I'm proud of was rosemary, sage, parsley, sage, rosemary, and Kenneth. That was really the only joke that I was actually the most happy with there.
Stellar.
But it made the whole thing worthwhile.
No notes.
I mean, sure.
Well, this is going to be another one of those that we're not quite sure how it's going to go, which I guess is really every episode of this damn podcast that we do. So I don't know why I'm like differentiating. It's always the same.
This one more than most, though.
True. I guess we should talk about it, but we have to do the music first. So let's get through that, and then we'll discuss what we're going to do right here on the Family KickAss podcast. And welcome.
Are you okay?
No, clearly not.
You sound like you're having a moment there.
I'm never okay. Like just in general, especially like when we do the show,
That's fair. This is fair.
Like the three of us are not okay. Anyone listening to the show is very much not okay. The three of us, of course, being Zach, Dan, and Jay, your fairly kick-ass crew, shuttling you head first into, I guess, a new type of episode, but really two old types of episodes kind of Frankenstein together.
Probably badly.
Probably badly. Probably.
A mashup, as the kids say.
A mashup, that is true. Rush X vibes. Hell yeah. We're here for the youths. Mm-hmm. So here's how this is going to go. We have a standard rush. We do our Mount Rushmore of a topic, our 4 whatevers, in this case songs, in no particular order, just top 4. But we're also going to have some deeper discussion about them, I think. And that's where the vibes part comes into play. So a little bit less condensed than the usual rush up. I think they usually run about 30 minutes. This one will probably be closer to an hour.
You hope.
Yeah, not that I say that. It's going to be like 22 minutes before editing.
Only if we rapid fire off our Rushmores.
Oh, yeah. That's definitely the play. Let's just get through that, and then we could just talk shit the rest of the time.
Deal.
But that topic for today, since we are sitting here in May, this episode will go up, I believe, early June by the calendar. We're talking about the songs of the summer. Not just songs from the summer, not just songs that were released in the summer, but the songs of the summer. It's a very specific categorization. I don't want to get too deep into what that might mean before I throw it to both of you. So Jay, let's start with you. What does Song of the Summer mean to you?
Yeah. Well, I think it means a number of different things, right? Like as I was going through lists, I actually asked the question to the group thread about it because I was so confused. Because depending on where you look, as you go back in time to look at the years or look at the songs of the summer by year, you get different lists. So trying to develop a criteria by which to determine the song of the summer was borderline impossible. So had to look at the old gut, and the old gut still didn't know. So then I wrote some things down at random. No, that's not entirely true. I did have some criteria, but mostly it was that it had to have something to do, like be like a top 10 song from that was released sometime either immediately prior to or during the summer of that year. And
interesting.
Have other criteria, but I'll talk about that when I announce what I've got.
Very nice. Dan, were you kind of more in lockstep with that, or did you go a different direction with it?
Somewhat. I don't know. There's the problem and also the kind of opportunity in doing this as a topic is that even with I believed and went 100% with Jay's criteria, there's a very good possibility that we're not going to come up with the same list of songs at all.
Correct.
Because the things that I would think would mean song of the summer probably mean a whole lot of different things to different people. So I was kind of thinking more along the lines of, and it was harder because of that, but it's sort of like, yes, a song released generally between May and Labor Day-ish, but because with global warming, we'll eventually push summer into November. But something that kind of, I hate my, well, no, I was going to say would hate myself for using the word zeitgeist in the context here, but it kind of was like kind of something that a song that like helps represent that year. Like it's a snapshot of time and place of that summer and has just kind of become connected to the season that way. More often or not, then they're going to be some of the more popular songs of the summer, but not necessarily. More often than not, they're going to be things that have to do with the summer, but again, not necessarily. We had like 2020 and 2021 where it was the Xanax of the summer, and that was going to be a little hard to pull out from that era, but not impossible. So like, I think we're probably thinking along the same lines. Mm-hmm. It's just a question of exactly which lanes we're going to fall into when it comes to that. But really, what about you? Are we way off, or are we going to sort of be traveling vaguely down the same path?
I think that's where it gets really interesting, because I think at a high level, the three of us approach this in exactly the same way. I think the high points that both of you mentioned are high points that I mentioned. Dan, you mentioned the straight-to-video sequel from the 1982 horror movie Poltergeist. I would 100% agree that is absolutely a part of the deal. But even with even with all that said, I still think that the three of us very likely will come up with three completely different lists that still fulfill kind of our individual nooks and crannies along that road of, the broader song in the summer. But the high points, like you'd mentioned, the feel, a summery song, when the song was released was something that I was actually very, very strict about, which I'll get into more in a bit. But besides that, like it's something that you just know. It's hard to really put into words, and that sucks because we're going to have to do that here in a few minutes.
Right. So and that was how I wrote when I set off with this. I started with just questions like, what is it that a song of the summer has? Is it necessarily the most popular song over the months? Is it the most viral song of the season? Is it the biggest party track or like backyard barbecue song of that season? Does the song have to be about the summer? To which I really thought about, like, no, actually, they rarely are.
I would disagree with that last statement, that they rarely are. So at least the ones that I found to be the ones that made the most sense to me either had something to do with the summer or were like a frequent backyard barbecue playlist hit.
I think that's probably more along what I would make a thing for, because I mean, like, not every song is going to be LFO. You know what I mean? Like, not everything is going to blatantly be about the warmest 3 months of the year. Right. Let me do this and explain why just most popular doesn't necessarily work either. For the last 5 years, what were the songs of the summer according to Billboard?
Oh, yeah.
Well, last year it was Shabuzi and a bar song. But that kind of like, that was everywhere last year, everywhere over the summer, barbecue song. 23 was Morgan Wallen and the Last Night. Let's move on. 2022 was Harry Styles and As It Was. Same thing. Like, it just kind of took snapshot of that time. 2021, Olivia Rodrigo and Good For You. Snapshot of that time. 2020, the interesting one, DaBaby and Roddy Ricch and Rockstar. As it was one of the more upbeat songs that was going on the summer of 2020, but that's neither here nor there.
But that year had some interesting ones at the top too, because you could argue that, I mean, as far as upbeat goes, that's the Harry Styles tune that would have kicked ass. As far as like that'd be Watermelon Sugar that year. And then also that's the year of WAP. So like trying to decide what the song of the summer would have been.
I feel like in my brain, I recognize that music existed in 2020, but I've just like pushed it all in my head to before the pandemic or after the worst of the pandemic. Like nothing happened between like March and November of 2020. Everything was either before or after, and those like 8 months just don't exist.
Well, I guess if we're talking about 2020 specifically, I would also enter in Blinding Lights, which came out in 2019, but hit number one on the charts in
See, but that would be wrecked by my other criteria in that it was released either immediately prior to or during the summer. Because that would have been, I mean, easily the song of the year, like in contention for that. But for the summer, that's a specific thing.
And that's important. I think that like just because I had a few of those that are like, this song is too big for the summer. As weird as that sounds.
Yeah.
You know, yeah, that was one that I didn't expect to come across, but there are definitely, that was one of the few tracks that was like, I can't do it because this is the song of 2020. This isn't the song of the summer of 2020.
Although there are a few that I would contend are both the song of the summer and would wind up being the song of the year or close to it. And I would, you know, the ones I chose to put forward from my rush fall into that category, I think.
I definitely have one of those for sure.
Yeah.
I don't think I do. So
well, good. Then we won't have any duplicates.
Yeah. I got to find the writing utensil. I can guarantee we're not going to have duplicates.
Yeah, we're going to have 12 different songs without question. I'm not sure. There may be 2 overlaps at most.
It's possible. It's possible.
I got one that's likely to be an overlap.
I know it's not gonna be, but I would really hope that at least with there's one specific song I'd like. I really hope somebody else went down that road with me.
Yeah, I have like one earmarked as an overlap with Jay and one earmarked as an overlap with you, Dan. And I'm really curious how poorly I've read this whole situation.
Interesting, because the one I marked as an overlap, I have marked as an overlap for both of you.
Okay.
I'm excited. Well, shall we jump in head first?
Let's do it.
Awesome. Well, I will go ahead and dip a toe in for my first item up for bids. It's not a song that we've talked about. I don't know that it's a decade that we've even talked about. It's definitely not a decade. And I don't think it's at all like even a millennium or a century rather, that we've discussed, or a millennium. It's from 1964. Because summers happened prior to, us considering a song of the summer as a discussion point, as a talking, category.
I'm going to need some sources for that claim. Summers
That's fair.
Existed before the 80s, please.
I will give you a Wikipedia link after the show.
I would prefer a YouTube video shot in someone's front car seat. Thank you very much.
I actually watched one of those earlier today. It was so bad. But the shitty part about my first song is that it's not even the first track that I would have selected from this band. The problem is that this band's first offering that just screams, yells song of the summer, and maybe is the song of the summer of all time, didn't hit number 1. And that was one of my criteria, by the way, not just top 10, but number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 from the months of May to July. Because to me, if it hits in August, like summer's pretty much over by then. Like it needs to really breathe during the meat and potatoes of summer. And unfortunately, the song Kokomo hit number 1 in November. Doesn't count, got to throw it away. Instead, let's go with the song that hit number 1 in July, specifically July 4th, which was I Get Around by the Beach Boys. Now, obviously, like I said, much different vibe than the other songs, but it was the vibe for the time that it was released. Things like driving down the strip, having a good-looking car, the phrase "go steady," very much a symbol of its time. Something that probably doesn't hold up as well today. Something you're probably not going to hear at backyard barbecues unless everyone there is an octogenarian. But it's a good reminder that this whole song of the summer conversation is rather fluid. And I think that's what really makes it interesting, because even within the last 20 years, I think that those goalposts may have shifted a little bit in one direction or the other, and certainly well before then. So I felt that this song absolutely deserved its place in my rush.
Okay, so I shortlisted that one. I
Nice.
did. Not one of the four that I chose. And I don't really have a good reason for not picking it other than I think weirdly enough, I think that that Kokomo charting when it did sort of means that people in 1964 didn't know when summer was.
Well, that's the weird thing. Go, Dan. Go.
To be fair, Kokomo was like 89.
Yep. 88. Yeah.
And it immediately gets disqualified because John Stamos.
Right.
Ouch. Cold. Fair. Harsh, but fair.
Yeah, I feel like I was, as I was looking at the list, and from like 1960, I have stuff on my list from 1960, 63, 64, 65. They all aren't summer songs, which like, and that was tricky for me. I Get Around is kind of a summer song, but I feel like it got lumped into all of those other ones where like this predates the song of the summer for me. It wasn't a thing yet. You know, blockbuster movies weren't a thing yet. Jaws was the first one. There's no such thing as a song of the summer in the early 60s. To me.
There was one other track, and I didn't even put it on my short list for that exact reason, but it was Runaway by Del Shannon, that I thought fit every motif except for the fact that it's not really summery at all.
Yeah.
Like it hit number one at the right time, and it was certainly a popular song, but not a song of the summer in any regard.
My only counter to specifically I Get Around is that it's hard to pick out a Beach Boys song as the song of the summer.
Yeah, that's fair.
Because they're just kind of the band, like everything they did for a good decade is just kind of everything is a summer song. And it all does fit the snapshot of what you would think of as summer at that exact time and in the 60s and maybe a little later. And then they come back. Kokomo's the perfect example of coming back in the 80s with the summer nostalgia as the boomer nostalgia thing really ramped up.
Those pasty tenors sure did love their beaches, though.
They certainly did.
Good Lord. But yeah, you're spot on, Dan. You know, Surfing could have been up there. Fun could have been up there. California Girls, of course. Yeah.
Not the Katy Perry one, though.
Yeah. The good one, not the...
Although that one could have made this list, too.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, I drew the line personally with just my criteria, but yeah, I would not argue with several of these tracks.
Yeah.
So maybe we call the Beach Boys the band of the summer.
Yeah, I mean, legitimately, you could do that.
Yeah.
Like the Beach Boys are the band of the summer for everybody, and Jimmy Buffett was the artist of like just vacations.
Yes.
For middle managers, and it feels like I'm like motherfucker and a dead guy, and I'm not. That's not the case at all. It's just the crowd that followed him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He had a specific following, that is for sure.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'll jump in here with my ringer because I feel like it's the one that is likely to overlap on both of your lists. If it does, it does. If not, I'll be surprised. But also I feel like it's my ringer for this rush. And that is 1991's Summertime by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Listen, it was released in May of that year. It is obviously a summertime bop, loved by all for more than just that year, but definitely that summer. And the other criteria I had is that it was something that was an earworm, something that didn't leave your head for the entirety of the time that you were, off school in the summer. That's the song that was in your head. And this one most definitely was.
This is one of the songs that make me feel like my criteria was incorrect because zero arguments. It only hit number 4, it did not hit number 1. So it was DQ'd automatically for me. But yeah, this embodies every single stitch of what summer means. And even being what, 25, 35 years old. Like, it still holds up to this day for what it is.
Yes.
I like that I could knock off one of these off the bat and only have to do 75% of the work.
So I did get an overlap.
When I asked the question in my brain of like, does it mean the songs are playing at the barbecues? That is, summertime is exactly what I was thinking of.
Yep.
And why I had to include that in the criteria, because as you said, it's been on the playlist of a million summer get-togethers, and everyone jams to it, and it is an earworm, and it's going to start getting infectious here in like 2 or 3 weeks, and it won't stop until the first leaves turn. Period. End of story. So yes, there was your overlap.
Woohoo! I nailed one.
Nice. Yeah. And shout out to the I guess the predecessor of that song, Summer Madness by Kool and the Gang, which I would absolutely also put on this list as like an honorable mention. Only an instrumental, but still it has the vibes. You don't need words to really portray those summer vibes the way that Kool and the Gang did.
Sure.
Well, Dan, since you had an overlap there, hit us with another one of yours.
All right. Actually, I'll go with one that was already mentioned and go farther forward than I've imagined your lists are going to go. It was, in fact, a number one track in the U.S. It was the artist's second of the year. It was also a number one in 19 other countries as part of a debut record that finished 2021 as the second best-selling album of this year. It fulfills so much of the criteria, except for a couple that might actually work here in the Song of the Summer. Another one in our long series of songs that slap, but they're actually full of pain, because that'll always get a couple extra bonus points. Heavy drums, pop punk guitars, an anthemic chorus. It has that earworm ability. It feels like the spiritual successor to King of Wishful Thinking, to Olivia Rodrigo and Good For You. And this is like the loosest, I think, pick like for the legacy section, is I just remember that the Good For You was everywhere that summer, like just on top for so long, you couldn't avoid it. So much it just feels that it belongs in June and July, even though there's nothing directly to tie it to the season. But just the fact that it was so popular, just apparently we just decided that summer was breakup season, and that might work, but it's like I am casting the net wide to try and justify that one.
It is not on my short list, but your thing about not going as far forward as I did is incorrect.
I am shocked.
Yeah. No, I mean, everything I have after that is shortlisted, not actually on my list. But no, I actually debated that one. My problem with 2021 is that I couldn't narrow it down to a single song from that year that I thought would have been the song of the summer. And if there's no clear winner, then there's no clear winner.
That's fair.
Yeah.
That's very fair.
I knew it was going alone here, so that's fine. I'm kind of used to it in these certain circumstances, so I'm not upset.
No, I think you nailed it for me, Dan, honestly, when you said that this one was kind of a little bit further off the beaten thematic path, because I considered it too. It did hit number one right in the sweet spot, I believe, in May of the year. So it definitely would have qualified for me there. But yeah, I couldn't see it as a song of the summer versus a song in the summer. And as that, yeah, absolutely. It was a wonderful song. It was super popular. It deserved all the flowers that it got, but it just didn't quite meet the criteria from where I sat.
Yeah,
no,
I mean, if we're being real, like I would have from that year, I'd have gone with Levitating, but that was an April release, so yeah.
Like I said, that's why how much weight do you put on a song that may have just been the most popular over the time? How much it would have been sort of the snapshot of, that's what this was, what this particular year sounded like.
Yeah. Well, it's a good pick. I don't agree with it, but it's a good pick.
No, I'm kind of on the opposite. Like I think it's a great pick as a song of the summer, even though it just didn't hit my criteria. I think it would probably hit a lot of other criterias for sure.
No need to go to war just yet, gentlemen.
Oh, there's time for that.
Let's get through all the rest of our picks.
All right, Zach, what's next?
So we have talked about the 60s. I think we talked about the 90s, the 2000s, but we're going to go back to the 90s just briefly. And we are going to talk about a song that was a weird pick. All these picks were kind of weird for me. Again, I should have opened this up to like at least top 5. I feel like I would have gotten a much better representation, but c'est la vie. This particular song was truthfully, a love letter to a state, not a love letter to a season, not a love letter to a time of year or to a vibe, but a love letter to a state. But it was one that was inherited by many outside of the state. I would imagine, including the three of us and many other folks listening as well. And for good reason, because if you think about it, there truly is no state that is more synonymous to the season of summer than the state of California. And I'm not just talking about weather. I'm not just talking about heat. I'm talking vibe. I'm talking soul. I'm talking the very essence of the season. So it may have not been the intent of Dr. Dre and Tupac Shakur and Roger Troutman, but California Love is 1000% a song of the summer. Hit number 1 in July of 1996, stayed there for a couple of weeks. I would say that's a couple of months too short for as awesome of a song as it was. It's a pure party, as Roger Troutman himself croons in the chorus. Like, I dare you not to shake it, baby, when the song comes on, especially at, as you mentioned, Dana, or I think both of you, a backyard barbecue, or at the beach, or enjoying a pitcher of Margs at the Mexican joint down the street. California Love is pure summer distilled into song form, whether you are on the west side of the country or anywhere else in the country or the world for that matter.
No notes.
No. I mean, I'm more annoyed with myself that I forgot that this thing peaked on the charts over the summer and therefore definitely would have qualified.
I think it hit number 5, even though it's like the charting version of that is it's as the B-side to How Do You Want It, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Good memory. Yeah, which is also a great song, but not at all a song of the summer. But I do like that jam.
But it might be why it gets in where you don't think of it necessarily off the top of your head. I shortlisted it. It wasn't on my final 4, but yeah, I don't have any arguments to it at all.
Yeah, it's that weird thing that you used to see all the time on the Billboard charts where like you would have an A and a B side to basically shove 2 songs into one release, one single, whatever they called it. It's exactly that.
Shoehorn.
Well, Jay, what did you have to shoehorn your next item for your rush?
I have to shoehorn it into this conversation because I guarantee that the rest of you don't have it on here. But I felt like my whole pretending to be elitist vibe didn't really mesh with this topic because the song of the summer wasn't necessarily going to be something that was cool, just something that was hot. See how I did that with the juxtaposition? So I'm going to hem and haw a few minutes more before I just say something like, yeah, All Star by Smash Mouth in 1999 was the song of the summer.
No, please don't listen to me. Go ahead.
No. That's all I got. I don't have a vehement argument for this song being on this list. However, I would say that it's hard to not acknowledge a song that has been the song of the summer. You could make an argument that this has been the song of the summer every year since 1999 with every single Shrek release.
You could make that argument. I'll give you that. It's an argument that can be made.
Yeah.
Yes, I guess. I don't like it, but I don't disagree.
No, I don't like
with
it
the
either.
Choice.
No, I mean, it passes the vibe check, I think.
Yeah.
But it is, I don't want to say it's not the first song you'd think of if you're going to put together a summer playlist. It could definitely end up there.
Yeah.
I don't like that it's there. I'm just pointing out that it was hard to not put it there based on the criteria I had while looking at all of the lists.
I mean, you could have just lied.
I could have, but who am I lying to? Just me. And also, I honestly I don't like the song, but I do believe it belongs here.
So, to any of y'all listening right now who go around trashing us on social media, on TikTok, making like Instagram reels like, oh, Fairly KickAss, they don't have any integrity. Oh, Fairly KickAss, they don't keep it to the vest. They just blah, blah. No, this moment right here tells you that this is a podcast of integrity, damn it. All Star by Smash Mouth. That's integrity. Fuck out of here.
I don't. You keep using that word. I don't think it means what you think it means.
Is this the moment where I get ousted from the podcast?
My only question was going to be, if you really wanted to do that, why didn't you just go with the actual song of the summer for 99 and Genie in a Bottle?
But, I mean, that was the number one.
Think of the music video. Says nothing but summer vibes. That's all fair. I had. That's really fair. All the only argument I had for this song. I'm pretty sure they spent a chunk of the video dancing on a beach.
Yeah. Yep. Which I feel like a lot of late 90s, early 2000s music videos were that.
Dancing might be a stretch. I think she was rolling for most of it.
I mean, there were backup dancers. I'm sure K-Fed was back there somewhere. It was about that right time.
Oh, God, he was. That's true. That's true. Oh, shit. God. Yeah, that might be another like tendril to the topic altogether, like songs of the summer based solely on music video. That would be a really interesting wrinkle.
All right, can we move on from this thing that I did that clearly isn't going to make the final cut of
Absolutely.
our list?
Yes.
Let's move on to something else that's not going to make the final cut. But thankfully, someone said the word beach in the last 5 minutes. So I don't have to edit what I wrote here. Because speaking of spending the day at the beach, how about a track that's a little more literal on that one? Probably more literal than I was planning on being on this whole thing. A band's debut single all the way back in 1978. It almost falls into Zach's qualifications because it was a number one single in Canada, but only making it to 56 in the US and 37 in the UK, but number 3 in Australia. And there's that seems to be a country that knows something about summer partying. It is a track that is literally about a beach party, but the sound and the subject and the band themselves all combine to create that legacy that says afternoon on the beach, but a little more off kilter. It says sitting on a towel when you happen to see a rock, but it wasn't a rock. It was a rock lobster.
What the fuck is wrong with y'all? God damn it. How am I not the one to fuck this whole thing up? Isn't both of you?
The defense rests.
This is exquisite.
Well, you got the laugh.
Again, I don't hate it. I mean, I do hate it, but I don't disagree with it.
I simultaneously disagree with it and hate it. That's called multitasking.
As I feel like that would have been very much like a song that would have played at the beach of its time, would have played, back in like the late 70s, early 80s, like at beach parties. Yeah, absolutely. I could 100% see that. Again, I don't like it, but I can 100% see that. I have no arguments.
I mean, the thread I can draw actually to your first pick is that it's the B-52s who had a very clear influence on them on 60s surf rock, from 60s surf rock.
For sure.
And that just there's a straight line from Beach Boys to Rock Lobster. That may not be the line you wanted to draw tonight, but there we go.
It's a weird line to draw.
I know.
But my only real actual argument against it is that I don't consider that song earwormy at all. Like, it's hard to, like, the guitar part maybe, like you said, like that surf rock sort of guitar part going on there, but that song is disjointed and weird in a way that only the B-52s can pull off.
Yep. But
and not a party going earworm.
Yeah, any other band that does this song and it's right in the bin. But this, like you nailed it, Dan. The intersection of band and song and theme is spot on. It really is.
Right
I
on.
knew it was the choice was going to the bin, but I was going to make it anyway. As the more I look upon my list, I understand that the stuff that I'm going to throw out there is going directly into the bin. The only songs that have a chance are the honorable mentions.
Well, no, you got one on for sure.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
true.
totally.
That's true.
I've been shocked before at the ones I've had that have made it through. Like, this will never. And then it just ends up getting on the final list. I'm like, how? I'll take
These three won't.
Yeah.
All right. Well, what else you got, Zach? What are you going to throw at us for the next pick?
This was a little bit out of order because this was the very last song that I put on my list, even though it's the third one I'm going to talk about. And there's a reason for that. And it was a tough call to decide which song ended up in this final slot because I had 4 others slotted in here, including Blinding Lights for what it's worth, and had notes written for each one, deleted them, added a different song, deleted it, actually added this song, deleted it, added a different song instead, and then came back to this song afterwards. So this was a very contentious activity for me as I went through this, but ultimately it came down to vibes and what California Love is to California, Usher, Lil Jon, and Ludacris are to the state of Georgia, laying down the fun, danceable, arguably the song of the year of 2004, definitely the song of the summer of 2004, and yeah, it's not necessarily an embodiment of the season. I will give you that. Absolutely. But it is an embodiment of some of the things that are central to summer. Obviously, dancing is very key, at least in the current iteration of the song in the summer. Definitely back 20 years ago, that was a huge part of the criteria, as it were. And love as well. You know, there is a sort of love in the air, I guess, in this track that is is more, you know, playful, is more club-esque, but certainly more summer-esque as well. Yeah, you could say that people will show up to dance floors and try to find a mate in the month of December. I don't disagree with that, but they're not going to write songs about it. That's the difference. Usher, Lil Jon, and Luda came with something sweltering in the best possible way, and they really nailed what the song in the summer was all about with ya.
They did.
As I found myself again completely agreeing with you for the second straight pick. I did have it on my short list because it was one of those. I'm like, yeah, no, it was the song of the summer. It was one of those. There was a personal memory stuck to there. I spun it a lot while DJing parties. Like it definitely says, you know, cramped summer college party where the air barely works with 50 people and 5 or 6 cases stacked up in the kitchen. None of them were natty. We had fucking standards, and no, we didn't. But we just threw people out who brought natty to our house.
So I brought High Life.
Attaboy.
See, some people bring champagne to the party.
That's right.
We always had the time, and he had the beer. And now he's got his next pick.
Yeah, I wish I had an argument to because I don't like the idea of it being the song of the year and the song of the summer. I know I just did All Star. I really have to get my head on straight. You know who helps get your head on straight?
Who's that?
Or for some people, the exact opposite. This segue makes no sense. I'm going with Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins, 1986. Listen, it's a song about the freedom of the highway, but it's not that awful Tom Cochrane song. It's a song about like embracing the insanity of life and doing what's dangerous and just laying it all on the line. That's pretty much the embodiment of the freedom of summer, and I felt like it needs to be on this list.
It was such a hard song when it came out, I feel like.
Yeah.
I think we lampoon it nowadays, but really, if you think about that, if you think about like, you know, other similar songs, like I Don't Care by Phil Collins comes to mind as one of those songs that like we would probably laugh at now, but was super hard back when it came out.
Yeah.
It's not one that I would have immediately equated to summer, but I think you kind of sold me with the argument. Yeah, I can absolutely see it.
Yeah, and it's one of those that barely, time-wise, like it was like late April release. So I kind of finagled a little bit to make it go in.
But it is an interesting. It holds an interesting place because it also could be another whole conversation when you're talking about the songs of the summer blockbusters, and we kind of don't have those anymore, really, because I mean, a whole other thing, like, you know, the concept of the summer blockbuster is completely different from what it was in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But it felt like in the 80s especially you had to have this the hit single to go with the movie.
Yeah.
This was the one for Top Gun. I'm pretty sure the volleyball scene ends up in the music video quite a bit, so there's a visual connection there as well. I got nothing against it. No.
Right on.
Just on that same note, real quickly, Dan, if we're talking about the song of the summer blockbuster, do we have to put I Don't Want to Miss a Thing at the very top of that list? Because I feel like we do.
I mean, if that's the criteria, if it's not number one, it's up there.
Yeah.
It was enormous.
I don't think it's number one, but it's got to be in the conversation.
It was enormous for what it was. I mean, it. Here's the thing: everybody knows the song. Not everybody knows what movie it came from, and fewer people can tell you who was in that movie.
Well, I mean, we're hyper nerds, so it's not even that deep of a dive for us. But anyway, I would say that we would do the same thing with that we do with everything else, and say, yeah, that might be the single most popular summer blockbuster song of all time, and then we'll re-rank them to say which ones belong there.
Absolutely. Because the people deserve to know where it should fall. Not where it does fall, but where it should fall.
Yeah.
Let me get the notepad.
Okay, Zach, I believe we're on your last one, right? Or are we on Dan? We're on Dan.
Yeah, I got one more because I struck off summertime.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm just gonna. It's gonna go in the bin, but I'm gonna give it to somewhat of the walk up. And I want to make it clear that I'm staring at Jay's camera the entire time I say all of this.
Oh, God.
Love it.
What is about to happen?
I know what this is going to be, and I'm hoping to watch all the color drain.
Okay, I'm prepared. Let's hear it.
Because it falls into Zach's category, so he probably had to consider it, because it spent 6 weeks at number one. It was eventually certified diamond. If there's hits your popularity. It really built itself into the cultural sun and fun spot through its subject and music video. So you have the combination, because we'll go back out to the Golden State. It's a track of pure disco, funk, dance, pop with a house-ish beat. You're going to bounce along to it. Like there's a little bit of weird elements everywhere there. And at the end of the day, it is an excuse to get Snoop Dogg on this list because it is California Girls.
Well, you were right about it going in the bin, but what was that motion, Zach?
I was throwing up my West Side.
Oh.
But here's the wait for the problem with all the criteria here that we worked is I don't like her. Isn't on that list.
No,
I need a stronger argument than that.
I would say that Katy Perry low-key is like one of those artists, maybe not to the level of the Beach Boys of the B-52s, but certainly an artist that is very synonymous with several tracks with summer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't hate the pick.
I mean, the thing about all these songs is also because it's they don't need to have a deep meaning. They don't even need to have necessarily staying power outside of the year they were released. I would argue like they just need to be the thing of their moment. And I think that's good enough to qualify.
Yeah. I would posit that if it had a deep meaning, it probably isn't very summery for the most part.
That's, you know what? I rescind all of my objections to the song because it fits all of that criteria for me.
It low-key does.
Literally hits on every point. It's an earworm. It's a summer song. It was a top 10 hit, number one actually hit. and I have no objections to it. God damn it.
Oh, what if we put this through? This might get put through, bro. This is gonna be wild.
Yes, please put the one they tacked on at the last minute on. Let's go.
So, real quick to make sure I'm still tracking with where y'all are at. Dan, you are out of tracks. I still have one, and Jay, you still have one. Is that right?
I still have one, yeah.
Okay, sweet. Then I think it's on me for my last one, and then Jay will jump over to you afterwards.
Sounds good.
So this track for me was never in doubt and should have been in doubt. And I say that because it fills every single qualifier that I have in spades, except for the subject material. It is 100% my outlier, 100% the one that is not like the others. Because truly, like, if you think about all the things that we've talked about over the last 50-ish minutes, nowhere in any of our discussions, nowhere in any of our criteria did we have a bullet point for shitting on your nemesis. But truly, this is the only thing the song is about. But it's become so much more than just a takedown of Drake. And of course, I'm talking about Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. Like, it has become something that it never was supposed to be. It's become something that I'm sure if you ask Kendrick Lamar, he was like, no, I don't want this to be a song of the summer. I just want to shit on Drake more. But you have so many people singing along with it, people doing that hopscotch two-step, people crip walking all over the place to the track, everyone belting out A minor. Like, I don't think that people understand what they're saying when they say that. You know, or at the very least, they've been able to kind of gloss over it and just say, like, this is just a fun thing to say in a fun song to be a part of and to be immersed in. And that's beautiful. I'm not shitting on that at all. I think that's an awesome thing that it's really become, and it's taken off to be what it ended up being throughout the summer of last year and partially the summer of this year too. A lot of that thanks to the Super Bowl. Exceptions need to be made sometimes. Y'all made them, and this is mine. Not Like Us is certainly one of the best tracks, probably the track of 2024, and weirdly, oddly, unexpectedly, a song of the summer.
Yeah, I don't have any arguments against that tune. I left it off my list specifically because it was the song that prompted us to do this in the first place. That's the one we were talking about when we started this conversation about Song of the Summer. Mm-hmm. So that for that reason, I left it off my list. But the song has the clout and the earworminess and all of it that you'd want. The only criteria for me that it doesn't meet is that it's not stupid. Like, everything else that was on my list was just vapid airspace that's an earworm, and that one's not. So, like, that would be my only argument against it, for reals.
Yeah, I think I agree. That might be the only reason I would have a little bit of hesitation, is strictly because it doesn't fit the theme of the rest. But and we talked about it in our year-end reviews about how this ended up being the song of the year, and that surprising thing that, like, just made the summer. It was literally the soundtrack to Aubrey's disdain, but still, like, again, a song that you couldn't escape. Absolutely.
Yeah, it was everywhere.
And I feel like the only other argument that could be made against it is that, like, if you went back and said summer 2024 was the what summer, it was the Brat summer.
We're gonna get to that, actually.
Yeah,
in my honorable mention.
Yeah. Right.
I don't disagree with you at all, for what it's worth.
And I don't know that I agree with that, because she only had one tune in the top 10 over the summer last year. And
that's the good question. Is it actually the Brat summer, or was that just really good marketing that went viral?
It was stellar marketing.
I mean, you're right. Like.
Yeah, so I don't know. That's a good question that we're going to have to deliberate on in a moment. As soon as I let you know that my final pick to get thrown into the ring here is Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf from 1978, for a lot of the same reasons that I threw Danger Zone in there.
You took the words out of my mouth. Like, I would have definitely said one of the two of those on the list. I feel like they're kind of the same kind of caliber of song. So I don't hate either option. I don't like both of them. I would not put both of them on like the final list for sure.
No,
I don't know
and
which of them that I'd put on there though.
here's the thing. I cheated. It was not originally on my list, and I changed it because I didn't want two of the songs on my list to be trolling you.
Oh, now I'm kind of disappointed.
Right?
I really wanted to throw Power of Love by Huey Lewis on there just to mess with Zach.
Fuck you. You're welcome, Nikki, by the way, for that. She has trolled me with this song for, God, the better part of 20 years. So,
but no, I had a lot of stuff on my short list, and Born to Be Wild is like, it's not a throwaway pick. It was thought out. It is the one that I should have gone with. In that, like, Huey Lewis is not the answer. That was a Zach troll. Not as much of a troll as if I had picked Life is a Highway, but still.
The weird thing is, I would not have objected to the Power of Love being a song in the summer.
Really?
Really? Like, again,
here's the other thing to think about this is that we're gonna have to talk about it when we do our blockbuster re-racks, because I mean, Back to the Future, that was a July 4th release in 1985.
Yeah, and also the reason that it didn't belong on this list is because the song of that summer was clearly Raspberry Beret.
Wow. We went O for Prince.
We went O for Prince.
That's wild, because Prince has a lot of songs of the summer too. We could probably make an episode.
Honestly, I only feel like Raspberry Beret. Like the rest of the, and we can talk about it in the vibes portion of this, but like I feel like the other songs of the summer for Prince were things like When Doves Cry, which is not a song of the summer. It was the number one song that summer, but that's not a song of the summer.
Yeah, maybe one closest, like party-wise, of course, would be 1999, but that's a song of the new year, and that's not a song of the summer.
Right.
Yeah. Raspberry Beret, on the other hand.
For sure. I would have been A-okay with that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we have the songs to pick from, and there's only one overlap, so I feel like that one's a shoo-in.
Yeah, let's go over the full list once again, just so we can open our arguments here. So, Dan, your picks were Good For You by Olivia Rodrigo, Rock Lobster by the B-52s, California Girls by Katy Perry and Snoop Dogg, and the aforementioned overlap being Summertime by DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Jay, of course, also with Summertime, as well as All Star by Smash Mouth, Danger Zone by Kenny Loggins, and Born to Be Wild by Steppenwolf. My selections were I Get Around by the Beach Boys, California Love by Dr. Dre, Tupac Shakur, and Roger Troutman, Yeah by Usher, Lil Jon, and Ludacris, and Not Like Us by Kendrick Lamar. Like you said, yeah, obviously Summertime goes through. I don't think we really need to deliberate at all on that one.
Yeah.
Excellent. As far as like my list, if there are any that I was going to, I don't know that I'd go to bat truly for any of them, but I think the one that I would say like this would be like my top pick to try to get in would be I Get Around.
Okay.
I feel like it's the summerist song on my list, and I feel like it just nails all the other criteria.
Then I would have argued for literally any other one except that.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That's kind of where I was at too. Okay, so I would choose California Love for sure. I'd be fine with that one.
Totally.
You want to put that through?
I think we just did, yeah.
Yeah, I think we did. Yeah, that easy.
Okay, so we got two more.
Give it. We revisit this in like 3 or 4 years. Not Like Us is definitely on.
Yeah, but not like I agree.
Yeah.
Affirmative. Right.
Affirmative. Out of the other ones that I had on my list, I would push for Danger Zone, I think that's the only one I would really go to bat for.
This was like the one that I keep going back and forth on, because I like Danger Zone better as a song, but I think Born to Be Wild is a better summer-esque track. So I'm kind of like...
It was also released a month later, so it's closer. Like Danger Zone was late April and Born to Be Wild was mid-May.
Oh, then I would absolutely give the nod to Born to Be Wild just based on that.
If that's the only criteria you're choosing, I I absolutely have to not agree. Not to mention, I think if you want to put meaning to the song, I think Born to Be Wild goes in a lot of other buckets. Not as strongly as a summer song, but Danger Zone definitely does, because there's a bunch of associations with it. And again, we go over to we hang the weight on that summer blockbuster influence.
Yeah.
That's a good point. I can't discount that. Like it's more than just the song. It's what it means and why people listen to it. And they listen to it at that point because they went to the movies in the peak of the summer. You've convinced me. I'm perfectly good with putting Danger Zone through.
Guys, this is the most songs I've ever gotten on a Rush.
You're killing it, bro.
Danger Zone.
All right, so now we've got this fourth spot.
I know which one I would pick for it, but I want to hear y'all's opinions.
God, you want California Girls, don't you?
Yes. No. I don't want California Girls. I feel like if there's any detraction from it, it's that I feel like having California Love and California Girls is a lot, you know. That'd be the only thing that would keep me from it.
Okay, so I've been outvoted already, so that's fine. And I don't have a solid argument against it. It does check every box for me, including the fact that it's fucking stupid. The only argument I have in favor of All Star over it is the movie thing again. But
yeah,
beyond that, I don't really actually have an argument in favor of All Star over California Girls. So if that's the one y'all go with, I'm not gonna, stomp all over it.
It's certainly not a movie tie-in, but I do go back to like the music video of California Girls as well. Yeah. And truth be told, if there was a music video of any song on this list that embodied summer, it's definitely that one.
Take it back. I vote for Raspberry Beret as the
against the rules. Get them out of here.
Okay, so California Girls it is.
I feel good about this list. I truly do. So, our final Rush to recap, we have Katy Perry and Snoop Dogg with California Girls. We have Kenny Loggins with Danger Zone. We have Dr. Dre, Tupac Shakur, and Roger Troutman with California Love. And we have the only overlap of the entire deal. So, of course, it was going to be on there no matter what. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince with Summertime. There is your official, fairly kick-ass Rush of the song of the summer.
I don't feel terrible about it.
If I have those,
I feel good about it. I feel good about it.
I do. I mean, I feel good about all our choices because they all would have ended up in a playlist if we were going to make like just summertime jams. They all would have gone there. So I feel like we were all definitely working the same and correct ballpark.
For sure. Yeah, I think there are universes in which we would have had more overlap, or I would have had a song that Jay ended up picking, or you, or vice versa. Like, I think we were all right there, which made it fun.
Yeah. And to get into like the more like vibey part of this, which I don't think we need to spend a ton of time doing this part, but I did think that it was very hard for me to decide on older songs of the summer because I didn't live them. Like, it was a lot easier for me to narrow down picks and decide on, what was the better song, from the late 80s on, because I remember them happening. Did you guys have similar, like, difficulties in deciding what to pick if you were doing the older ones?
I think that's possibly why I didn't really have much in the way of older, outside of just the one for funsies, but I completely agree. Like, as we kind of mentioned a couple times, it's when you say the song of the summer, it's defined as this that summer. It is what that is. As you mentioned, the Brat summer, or we could have, which we didn't even touch in the Hot Girl summer a couple years ago. Like, the things that were for those three particular months, which were obviously we don't know the things that were there before we really kind of experienced them. So I think it's fair if you don't have access to like a direct connection to, what summer meant to somebody from 1978, it's a lot harder to judge.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Like, we're the only thing that we have to really anchor us to, especially to those older songs, is really the Billboard charts. And the one, if there was a unanimous choice, it was obviously going to be Summertime. It only hit number 4, so we can't use that as necessarily an indicator of the vibe, an indicator of what is everyone actually listening to this summer, what is everyone actually playing, during the sand volleyball games and the mini golf course. I mean, it's as cliche as it sounds, you had to be there. And I would love to talk to someone who was there during some of those times, during the 60s, during the 70s, even into like the 80s to an extent, and say, like, what were the songs of the summer? What were y'all really like? This is it. This is the one that everyone is rushing to listen to at this moment. Because I feel like that might be a very different list than anything the three of us could have come up with.
I also feel like, I mean, I definitely agree with that. And it's one of those things where, like, I feel like the first year, as I was going back through these and looking at the Billboard lists for the summer, and, just from my memory when it got into the late 80s, but like the first year that really felt like most of the songs of the summer most of the songs that were released were trying to be that song of the summer, was in the late 80s. It was that 1988 when Pour Some Sugar on Me was just everywhere. But then also that's the same year of Sweet Child of Mine, The Flame by Cheap Trick. Like there were a lot of songs that year, and pretty much every year since then you get like multiple songs on the list that could have been the song of the summer. Like after that is, I mean, I made my picks for pretty much every year after that. So for 1990, for me, it was Step by Step. For 92, it was, obviously 91 was Summertime. 92 would have been Baby Got Back. Like I made picks for all of them and then narrowed those down. But like every year after that, you get like a handful of tunes that could have been. Whereas, you look at the older lists and it's like, okay, Elton John threw a song that like tried to get a hit over the summer, but it wasn't like trying to capitalize on anything.
Yeah, like a song in the summer, not a song of the summer.
Right.
Also, that's a really interesting way to approach it, to look at like, what's my song of the summer every single year and then pare it down from there. That is a really cool way to look at it.
It makes for a very interesting playlist.
Oh God, I bet.
Truth.
Because I go from, listen, and I didn't do every year because, like I said, certain years I couldn't pick one.
Yeah.
But like 1960, I've got Mule Skinner Blues because I love that song. 63 is My Boyfriend's Back. Then we've got I Get Around and Satisfaction, Born to Be Wild, Sweet Caroline, Take Me Home, Country Roads. This is a good playlist.
Yes. I'm vibing to it already.
Right. Even when you get more recent, like we get, obviously I put All Star in here in 99, but 2002 we get Hot in Her. We got Hollaback Girl. We got some Gnarls Barkley, some Black Eyed Peas, Party Rock Anthem. Like Pharrell Williams shows up a handful of times on here, unfortunately, but like,
Yeah, even a few of those I flirted with for my short list. So certainly not, really far out of bounds at all.
Right.
Yeah.
The only one I wrote on here and left it there, but it was already disqualified, was Old Town Road.
Yeah, I also had that as an honorable mention of mine. What was interesting about that one for me was that if there was a song of the summer criteria that only had to do with time, this would have been the only song that nailed it of my entire list, because it was number 1 from April to August of 2019. So,
yeah, but it was released in March.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the difference between your criteria and mine, is released versus number 1, which itself is pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then that goes back to the whole release versus influence.
Sure.
True.
And release alone doesn't guarantee anything. How many times have I talked about, a song during our reviews 6 months after the single's released because it just got to the chart,
That's true.
So like for whatever reason, slow burn, or like you said, like well, Danger Zone's an April track. That's not summer.
Yeah.
Like, well, no, but it was attached to Top Gun, so it sold in July.
No, that's fair.
That kind of thing.
For sure.
And that's why, like, the release date was never even entered into the things I was thinking about, just because, like, yeah, but if it was, we're going for when it was big, when it had that influence, and that would have been, as long as it had that summer influence, we're good to go.
No, that's why, like, I had that criteria, but I broke it in my own top 4. So
Touche.
It was just for narrowing down purposes, and then if you have to break it, you have to break it because Danger Zone belonged there.
Yeah. And that might be a fourth wall bit for me. And I know I mentioned it a couple of times, but like if you don't have some kind of guardrail in place, like what are you going to look at to build a list like this? You're literally going to look at the population of every single song. You have to narrow it down sometimes. And I feel like it's rare for us to do too much, to narrow too far, so that we're, cutting out or overlooking tracks or albums or whatever that really could and should, have fit into whatever motif we're looking for, with the exception of that very strict criteria. Like, this was maybe the first time or one of the few times that I can remember that I've done that. But yeah, it's otherwise the alternative is that you would spend 6 years putting together this list.
Right. And just a bit of a even further fourth wall break comment on that is, I think, as it may or may not be clear, and I don't know if how listeners actually feel that this is the way we do it, but we often do that to ourselves, where here's a very 30,000 foot topic. It's up to us to put our own guardrails in place and then to work within them. Like Jay mentioned, the pre-show chat before we got here, and we're just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Like, do what you want.
Yeah. And honestly, like, I'm looking at this list that I have here and sort of not regretting the 4 that I put there, because if I had done it the other way, I would regretted not putting those 4 on there.
For sure.
But like Raspberry Beret is a hard one not to have on that list. And then things like Can't Stop the Feeling fits the movie criteria.
Yep.
And now I'm looking at Can't Feel My Face with that June release and watching the punch happen in the locker room over and over again to the tune of Can't Feel My Face. I just, like, I'm looking at this list and I'm thinking I could have gone a whole other direction with it and still been okay.
Yeah, I think all of us could have probably come up with 3 or 4 rushes from, our actual rush plus our short lists, and felt pretty good about going to bat for a lot of them.
Like, this might be one we may be able to revisit and just go, okay, let's do this list again, but you can't use anything, obviously, from the last list. Honorable mentions are a whole different story.
Ooh, I like that idea. I like that a lot. Because we kind of did that once. Jay, I think you're actually out of pocket in that episode, but Dan and I kind of took I think it was a Billboard Top 100 re-rank. And I think we re-ranked the re-rank, either that or a top 5. I can't remember which.
I think it was a top 5 that you picked from previous top 5 things.
And I think it was super fun. I think we came up with entirely different lists for the most part than we did at first. So I'd be all for that.
Right on.
Well, Jay, I know you had mentioned a few of your honorable mentions. Did you have any other ones that jumped out from your honorable mentions list?
I mentioned an awful lot of my honorable mentions. Interestingly enough, like Jesse's Girl was a summer hit. And that's one that I thought about throwing on there. Eye of the Tiger also fits the summer blockbuster criteria. Jump for My Love by the Pointer Sisters. They're Semi-Charmed Life, Third Eye Blind, that was a summer hit.
Oh, it was. You're right.
Summer hits about meth. Cool, everybody's jam.
Yeah, how did Stephen Jenkins get a song purely about crystal meth on the radio with, like, I don't think any real, like, censorship?
I mean, there's no censorship of the song.
Yes, there absolutely. Yeah, yes, there was.
Oh, did they just blur out the words crystal meth?
The words crystal meth were absolutely backward masked, which is close to it. But honestly, that's not the part that was the more explicit part about
right.
the crystal experience anyway.
Right.
So the question, I guess, is how did he get a song about crystal meth with the absolute minimum of censorship?
Yeah. And some pretty lewd content throughout the rest of the song.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, it was. That's a pop classic now.
Yeah.
Oh,
and as Rob Thomas has said, the man is living, breathing cheese. Maybe that's how he sneaks it past the censors.
Possibly my all-time favorite insult of a fellow human being. From Rob Thomas, of all people.
Uh-huh.
Living, breathing, walking cheese. That Stephen Jenkins is. Oh, so good.
Also, La Bamba was a summer hit, just so you know.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that one smashing like in its time.
87.
Dan, what about your honorable mentions? What would you have that didn't quite make the deal?
We've honestly been talking about everything that would have hit there. The only thing I do regret is doing is not including When Doves Cry, because it does in fact hit all of those markers that we agreed on. It's not what you would think of as a very summery hit,
right?
But it definitely hits. But then we could have this When Doves Cry, Raspberry Beret argument.
Yeah,
that would have been a fun argument.
Totally okay with.
Yeah. There's no loser in that argument.
No, exactly. Not at all. Which one had the better B-side?
They may have both ended up on, let's be real.
Were they each other's B-side?
No.
No, they're different years.
Yeah.
When Doves Cry's B-side was 17 Days, and Raspberry Beret was She's Always in My Hair.
Oh, that's the better B-side.
Yeah.
I don't think there's an argument to be made.
I agree, actually, in that one.
Top 5 B-sides episode coming soon.
Oh God,
I'm down with that.
That would be like it. Yeah, that'd be interesting as hell. I'm gonna start now and record it like next year.
Yep, I got one already. Well, at least where I'm starting.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Well, the important thing to do now is to ask everyone else out there how far off our rockers we are, or did we just kind of hit upon all of your favorite summer jams? And the way to do that, the way to tell us whether or not, we need to be boiled in oil for our choices, or you completely agree, I'm going to pass over to Zach because my brain just froze.
I was wondering, it's like he's going, he's
I was going to try.
Well,
Germans.
I get that movie reference. Hell yeah. It's like the only one I've got. But y'all have more than one for what it's worth. Y'all have four different ways, 4 different social media platforms to get in touch with us. And we're talking Blue Sky, Instagram, Threads, and TikTok. It's simple. It's Fairly KickAss across the board. At Fairly KickAss, put it into your URL configurator, your browser window type thing. However you kids do the internet these days, I don't know. We still do email. We're boomers. We email each other things. If you'd like to be a boomer with us and email us, fairlyKickAss@gmail.com will get you there. We also have a web page. I don't know if y'all are familiar with that. fairlykickass.com is the address there. And of course, the only place to get the Fairly KickAss podcast, that's a trick question. Anywhere. Literally anywhere you could get podcasts, that is the place where you could get the Fairly KickAss podcast. As we always say, if we're not on your podcast provider of choice, please let us know. We do want to be everywhere that you can listen to us. We want to be the Visa of podcasts, for goodness sake. So hit us up, let us know. And like Dan said, let us know what you think of the episode. Did we nail it? Did we miss it? What would your songs of the summer have been if you were in our shoes? Hit us up and give us your thoughts.
Please.
We beg, we plead. Any parting words for the song of the summer discussion, boys?
Just that, life is a highway, and I'm going to ride it all night long.
Life is a highway and the living's easy. Another one that we missed.